Hello everyone, today we are talking about education inequality in Cambodia. Let's talk about the general information of Cambodia. Cambodia's system follows a 6 plus 3 plus 3 structure covering primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary education. Khmer is the official language of schooling, but some ethnic minority students speak other home languages, which may put them at a disadvantage from the beginning. However, access to the same national system does not mean that all students experience education in the same way. In many schools of rural, teacher shortages, low qualifications, and weak infrastructure remain serious problems. Job rates at lower secondary level are also high, often due to child labor and family poverty. So, although has expanded, educational inequality remains a major issue.
Okay, I'm now going to introduce Cambodia's education history and cultural background. Cambodia's education history can be divided into several stages during the French colonial period from 1863 to 1953. A Western-style education system was introduced, but access to education was limited. After independence from 1953 to 1970, education expanded and became linked to nation building. However, from 1970 to 1975, civil war interrupted this development and damaged the education system. The most important period was Khmer Rouge period from 1975 to 1979. During this time, schools were closed, many teachers and educated people were affected, and the education system was nearly destroyed. Many current problems, such as teacher shortages and quality issues, are still linked to this history. Since 1979, education has gradually moved towards reconstruction and development, and the 2007 education law further formalized education governance. For the cultural background, Cambodia is a collectivist society, so group harmony and respect for teachers are important. Education is often teacher-centered, and students mainly listen to follow guidance. Learning is also exam-oriented, with a strong focus on memorization. Finally, Buddhism plays an important role in students' moral, cultural, and social development.
However, it can be argued that a Buddhist value may also reinforce conformity, social harmony, and respect for the authority, which can reduce space for questioning and open disagreement in the classroom. This is significant because it supports a more teacher-centered model of learning, where students are expected to listen carefully rather than challenge ideas. As a result, the classroom may become a place where obedience is valued more highly than the independent thought. This doesn't mean that the Buddhist influence is purely negative, but it does show that moral education can also reproduce unequal power relations between teachers and students. Therefore, Buddhism in education may shape not only students' values, but also the limits of students' voice, autonomy, and critical thinking.
Next, I will talk about politics and the governance. Politics and the governance help explain why educational inequality in Cambodia is shaped by how the state manages schooling. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport remains the central steering actor, controlling curriculum, examinations, reform priorities, and performance management. Although recent reforms promote school-based management and subnational responsibility, this is selective decentralization rather than full devolution. Cambodia therefore operates through a hybrid governance model, centrally directed but unevenly implemented locally. This governance pattern is historically rooted. During the Khmer Rouge period, formal schooling was dismantled, damaging teachers, institutions, and administrative capacity. After 1979, education reconstruction became part of post-conflict state rebuilding. Since 2014, reform has become more managerial and quality-oriented, focusing on examinations, teacher upgrading, new generation schools, and model school standards. Yet, reforms do not reach schools equally. Secondary policy now prioritizes STEM, foreign languages, digital literacy, and 21st century skills, but rural schools often lack leadership capacity, teachers, and resources. Governance can reduce inequality, but uneven state capacity may also reproduce it.
Next, I will discuss how income inequality contributes to education inequality in Cambodia. As shown in the growth, poverty levels remain constantly higher in rural areas than in urban areas, although both have improved over time. Cambodia is also a predominantly rural country, with around 74% of the population living in the rural areas. Rural households earn only around 60% of urban income, which limits their ability to invest in education. Lower income reduces spending on transport, learning resources, and school-related costs. So rural students often enter school with weaker foundations and face higher risks of dropout. In contrast, urban families have greater financial capacity and access to better schools, private education, and more qualified teachers, leading to stronger academic outcomes.
Although Cambodia experienced rapid economic growth, we still need to ask, can economic growth alone really solve educational inequality? As shown in the research, this did not automatically reduce educational inequality. Education spending remained low at only 2.7% of GDP, which suggests that growth was not translated into enough support for education. Figure 2 also suggests that the public spending prioritized were not mainly focused on education, as healthcare appeared to receive more attention. This is reflected in Figure 3, where rural schools had more novice teachers and fewer highly qualified staff, meaning that better resources were still concentrated in the urban areas. So the key point is that growth alone was not enough to reduce rural educational disadvantage. And thank you for watching.